So this is a session on sustainable living. Sustainable living describes a lifestyle that attempts to reduce an individual or a society's use of the earth's natural resources and one's personal resources. The practitioners usually try to reduce the carbon footprint. They make all efforts to change their lifestyle. It might be in the way they wear it, the way they live in the houses they live in, or the food that they eat. I have 3 people sitting here with me. Himanshu Shani takes care of the clothing part of sustainable living. He runs a brand and a clothing brand called 1111. He's also somebody who's a bridge between what we do in India and what we see globally. If I understand correctly, Himanshu, you were in Italy for some time, and from there you took that extension of the design sensibility and you're trying to put it together in India here, and being a bridge between how the Indian textiles could look globally and also how they are more sustainable in the terms of usage of water and the production, and then using it as a consumer item. 1 minute. And then I have Ashish Gupta here. Least to be told for him, he's, can I call him an organic farmer? Somebody who I really look upon to. I've looped out of cancer myself, so for me, understanding of organic foods and sustainable living is very, very important. So I'll pass the baton to him when it comes to him to tell you more about that aspect. Then I have Jwalant. I didn't want to say your name wrong, sorry. So I have Jwalant here, who's an architect by profession. Again, somebody who's a great bridge between what is happening globally. He worked with Zaha Hadid for about 4 years in London, and he's moved back to India to practice design with a very global appeal here. Can I start off with Ashish Gupta to tell us a little bit about himself, and also please do tell us how can food contribute into sustainable living. That will be a great take home for everybody. Thank you.
It's very interesting to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to open. And I'll take some credit for opening the discussion, because हमारे देश में ना एक कहावत है, रोटी कपड़ा और मकान. It is never कपड़ा मकान रोटी. It is never मकान कपड़ा रोटी, but it is roti kapda or makan. Yeah, it is a very fundamental aspect to who we are and what we do. So the idea of sustainability as it exists in India is essentially in this order, because in the natural scheme of things, if you see any kind of individual, be it a sparrow, be it a squirrel, be it a mouse, they also follow this natural order. It's just that कि कपड़े की उनको कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है और हमें है ना. But रोटी यानी अन्न की ज़रूरत प्राथमिकी है. जब से हम पैदा होते हैं जब तक हम गुजर नहीं जाते, हमें किसान की ज़रूरत होती है, क्योंकि हम खुद किसान नहीं हैं. It's okay if I Hindi English दोनों is okay. So the farmer is an essential part to what we deem as sustainability to be. You may know your doctor, you may know your lawyer, you may know your bagal ka police wala, but how many of you know your farmer? Yeah? For someone who you need from the day you're born, perhaps till the day you die, almost 3 times a day, you don't know who that person is. It's a statement onto itself. Yeah? And maybe we'll continue with the discussion. Just wanted to open with this. And to be honest, because we're talking about Bapu ki Dilli, all you have to do is pick up Gram Swaraj, what Bapu has written. If I be permitted, I'll read some excerpts out of this.
Would really appreciate that.
Maybe when the discussion opens up, I'll read some excerpts out of it, and you may just come up to realize that what Gandhiji wrote when he did write Gram Swaraj, and what he did say at that time is true even now. So perhaps when we open up the discussion more, I'll read some of these excerpts and we can have a discussion around it.
Himanshu, can we have you take the kapda part of it, please?
Thank you for having me here. Yeah, Ashish very correctly says that roti kapda makan is the way how the whole life journey, and mostly it's practiced in India. So I make clothes. I studied fashion design in India, and then I did my masters in Italy. In my journey of studying, I mean, what was fortunate about my college time is that I was taught by designers and artists and architects rather than fashion. Because I think in India, I don't think the word fashion comes in. It's more about the craftsmanship. It's more about the design part of it. There are the traditional practices which are there, and that's how I was been taught. And then I went to Italy and I did my masters there, where I actually experienced the whole lifestyle of Italy, where people um, are passionate about what they do. They really respect their traditions. They, and because of which there is a value of whatever is made in Italy, and why made in Italy stands for what it is. And there are various brands across the world which are known for those craftsmanships and the traditional techniques and practices they have taken forward, and they've built a whole philosophy and lifestyle around it. And that's what I got exposed to while I was working as a consultant there. I work very closely with a brand called Diesel, and it has its own journey and a story behind it, and various other brands. But when I came to India and I was working with the Indian industries here, usually all these companies, when they come to India, they try to do the cheapest thing possible in India. It's not that they're coming to India because what India is known for. And that's what I felt that was a big missing link which was happening. And at the same time, I was working with even Khadigram Udyogs and working with various artisans at the craft level, at the grassroots level, and also working with the biggest exporters who are basically a manufacturer in a simple word, but they like to call themselves exporters, and they are providing services to various brands who are doing these cheaper clothes. And my experience there, kind of, I realized that it is more of a slaughterhouse rather than creating something beautiful, which is made by hand. And that's where my whole journey started, and I built my own brand 1111. And I think we will talk about it more in the conversation as we go ahead.
I'm an architect uh, as an education as a practitioner, but uh, with architecture we also do a lot of different things in terms of art installations, furniture, and part of my education happened in London. And when I worked for Zaha, and you know, the idea of sustainability, I did a project which was LEED certified. You know, we got, I think, the platinum or a gold LEED certification. And when we were designing the building, there was no talk about sustainability. Uh, but you know, in this era of green being famous and green as a way forward, there is, people have figured out a way to prove anything being green, uh, and that actually made me start to think that is it really sustainability. When I moved to India, I still had a lot of kind of influence which I got working from there in terms of design, obviously not sustainability. And I realized that in India, when you really want to do something uh, out of the box, or you want to really push yourself as designer, you have to start working with a lot of people in sectors which are no more thriving. You know, those sectors are quite vulnerable. Those sectors are basically the craftsmen who are working with materials which were flourishing once upon a time, but are no more practiced, no more important, uh, because plastic has taken over. Concrete becomes a basic, like a client comes to me and you know, they won't even think what the material of the building would be. Concrete, brick, plaster, these are the materials people born with thinking that that's how you build homes. So it's been 7 years we have been practicing, and in this 7 years our main aim is to explore different materials to obviously reduce the footprint of carbon footprint of the building, rather than looking at a building at a later stage how to reduce air conditioning load, because that's what most of the green buildings talk about, how to reduce air conditioning load. But rather than looking at the building itself, looking at as basic as a foundation, looking at materials, minimizing materials is what we are, and at the same point not giving away the idea of a design. You know, it should still be beautiful, it should still be wanted by the elite and not only made for the poor, because that's where the bridge is. Everybody wants to be an image of a haveli or a koti, which is concrete. So what can you give with a material which is not a conventional material today, but have something which is enviable for yourself? So that's what we are looking for.
Which is actually a situation today. We want everything. We want to live in a koti, but we want to have a central courtyard. We want to feel that we are in a farm, but we have very limited space and we go up into a high-rise building. Then we try to hang plants from in between the various stories and making it into green architecture. We try to make clothes which are very easy to wash. They're very easy to wear and they're not creased. But when it comes to our health, we try to think that cotton clothing is better, but we don't want to iron it, we don't want to maintain it. The food that we eat, I don't even want to begin from there, because I'm one person who's really very closely understood that the easy, convenient, comfortable food is very easy to do, but it can have a very lasting and a very hazardous effect on us and on our bodies. Three of you are great people to be coming together on a stage here today, because you're actually representing all the three aspects. Unless they come together in harmony, there will be no sustainable living. Derek Jensen, he was a philosopher of the ecological movement. He argued that industrial civilization is not and can never be sustainable. What he said was, if we are into industrialization, our talk about sustainability does not really hold any water. Three of you sitting here kind of are trying to be flag bearers in an industrial world today, but you're still saying that it can happen. And we've known you enough to know that you've been following it very well. We would love to know how would you like to compare in this industrial world, and what do you do for us to learn how not to do it the way it should not be done? Can I address it to any one of you? Would you like to start?
Monika ji, when you talk about industrialization, it's very pointed. The panel here also represents, apart from Roti Kapda Makan, what we today technically call as creative and cultural industries. And when you talk of culture usually becomes poster boy for anything to do with concepts like sustainability, ecological, green. But you see, there are no follow-through strategies. In a world where we are facing, by 2050 we may have 10 billion souls on earth, and we are talking about a fourth industrial revolution where the concept of biotechnology might change the concept, but the way you as human beings are perceived, your engagement with technology, plus that affecting human labor. In this context, how do you guys feel the concepts which incline towards deference with nature, such as sustainability, feasibility, green, ecological footprint, carbon footprint, how do you follow through on them? And how do you conclude a model which ensures that it is replicatable, scalable?
So, okay, that's an interesting set of things. Let me do this. I'm going to read an excerpt out of Gram Swaraj. It's in Hindi. If anyone here doesn't understand, I'll help translate it. Just raise your hand. And then I will talk about the elements that you were mentioning. And perhaps I can draw in both Himanshu and Jwalant here. So, it just goes like this. कई साल हुए मैंने एक कविता पढ़ी थी जिसमें किसान को दुनिया का पिता कहा गया है. अगर परमात्मा देने वाला है तो किसान उसका हाथ है. हम पर किसान का जो ऋण है उसे चुकाने के लिए हम क्या करने वाले हैं? अभी तक तो हमें उसके गाढ़े पसीने की कमाई खाते रहे हैं।
बहुत खूब।
हमें खेती से काम शुरू करना चाहिए था, लेकिन हम ऐसा ना कर सके। इस कसूर की जिम्मेदारी कुछ हद तक मुझ पर है। ये जो मुझ पर है, गांधी जी अपने ऊपर बात ले रहे हैं ना, ये हमारे समाज पर है। दिस इज ऑन all of us put together. When I started thinking about this from a sustainability point of view, at Ankush, as Ankush is mentioning it, or the post-industrial revolution mechanism that Monika ji you had referred to, it was like the layers in an onion. We started with the element of culture, which Ankush had mentioned, and then when I say we, it's a group of people, me included, some trustees of Delhi Organic Farmers Market Trust are here also. We started thinking ki when we talk about culture, what is agriculture? You have culture embedded inside agriculture. What does that mean? And when we started identifying with the word and trying to discover what the culture of agriculture means, it was like peeling layers of an onion. The more you peeled, the more it revealed itself. I'll give you an example. In our farm, where we run our farmers training center in Himachal Pradesh, on agroecology and organic farming, we wanted to build a structure which would be a symbol for all that we do in time and space. But when we wanted to get material for that structure, we were hit with the same roadblocks, you know. Concrete is everywhere. Even if I wanted lime was available for the biggest cement factory, but it wasn't available for me as an ordinary farmer. Then we decided that we are going to follow a principle which a very wise person had once told us. Ravindra Sharma, Guruji, he passed away last year. He said कि आशीष तुम दायरा बांधो, अपना दायरा बांधो, जहाँ पे तुम हो वहाँ से चल के जाके तुम्हें जितना मटेरियल मिल जाए उसको तुम अपना प्राइमरी इनपुट मान लो. Then we decided where we were, वहाँ पे there was stone and there was soil. पत्थर था और मिट्टी थी. एंड दैट गॉट मी थिंकिंग टू दिस एलिमेंट ऑफ सस्टेनेबिलिटी, दस कल्चर, कि यार अगर मैं कंक्रीट का मकान बना लूँ यहाँ पे, तो कल जब हम नहीं रहेंगे इस मकान की ज़रूरत नहीं रहेगी. इफ़ इट हैज़ टू बी ब्रोकन डाउन, what will this rubble be used for in the village? But now I'm happy to say that taking this element of mitti and patthar, we created a structure where I know that tomorrow if this structure has to be broken down, the mitti will go back to the soil, germinate plants and again give food. This was the element of sustainability and the layer that we peeled out of agriculture. Why? Because we are working with the farmers. किसानों के आसपास पत्थर होता है, मिट्टी होती है, लकड़ी होता है, पानी होता है. अब वो जो किसान थे जिनके साथ हम काम कर रहे हैं वो कारीगर भी थे. शैली है उनकी पूरी तरीके से मिट्टी से उपज करके पौधे पैदा करना, और उसी मिट्टी से हमने 30 फुट के स्पैन का एक स्तूपा खड़ा कर डाला वहाँ पे. हाँ, ये जानते हुए कि कल दिन जब अगर ये स्तूपा टूटता है तो इसकी मिट्टी हम फिर खेतों में डाल देंगे और फिर इससे फसलें लेने लग जाएंगे. ये एक एलिमेंट है. जब दूसरा लेयर हमने पील किया तो देखा कि हमारे आसपास जो हमारा गांव है, देयर आर शेपर्ड्स देयर. वो चरवाहे हैं, अपनी भेड़ों को, बकरियों को ऊंचे पर्वतों तक ले जाते हैं, फिर नीचे लाते हैं. फिर हमने देखा एक और लेयर पील की, वहीं पे हमें वीवर्स भी मिल गए वुल के. वुल का पूरा एक हमें कम्युनिटी मिल गया. सो वी केप्ट ऑन डिस्कवरिंग. एंड समवन हैड वंस सेड दैट, a wise man in Arabia had once said, I'm forgetting the philosopher's name, he was saying that more knowledge does not reduce mystery, because there's always more mystery. There is no center to this onion. Keep peeling it as many million times you want, it will keep revealing new layers to itself. So this perhaps answers one element, how we took the Bapu thought, took the blame onto ourselves, became the change, because I can't change the society, I can only change myself. So you be the change. Open your eyes, open your ears, open your mind, open your hearts, and the villages of India will show you the way forward in sustainability. Perhaps we'll talk more about it, but I guess Himanshu and Jwalant, go ahead.
In my case, I would say that, and we have read about this a lot, and that is one of the first things when it comes to sustainability, that you source local materials and you source. It is also said that in there are a lot of this theories, and it says that you should source within 40 kilometers or 30 kilometers, and there are things like that. But when you let's say work in a place like Delhi, or I come from Gujarat, and you know, if you travel in Gujarat, what you see is only cities, you know, and when we work in the cities and when we think of the local material, uh, it is hardly available, you know, and the first thing which you think would be local would be again concrete and again brick, and so this idea of local material uh, is a great thing, but it's still a very difficult thing to work with. Um, then the other problem which we face and I don't want to be very negative, but the reason I'm talking about problems is
No,
that
you're not being negative. You're actually giving us the perspective, which is what the people say, that in the industrial world today, how are we going to become what we are, what we are expected to do? Please go ahead.
uh, when we propose a structure, let's say it's a large span structure, and then you know you propose something which has minimal material involved in it. Uh, the first thing which you realize when it goes into the market for whatever costing, or when it goes to the client, that it is always more expensive than a conventional method where the material is more, the carbon footprint is more, everything is more, but still it is cheaper. This is because of how the industrial growth has limited what one can think as design and construction. Now, that becomes the biggest roadblock for someone like me, because you can't ask anyone to spend more than what they have or more than what they want to spend. So, sustainability immediately comes against economic sustainability of that client or of that project, and that becomes the biggest issue where we work. One could use less wood, let's say, compared to a traditional way, but making it work in a particular manner, your labor will be more expensive. You might, you know, so all these things become I would not call an issue, but you have to kind of look at all of this thing and take out a middle path for yourself where you are also happy with your conscience that okay, I've done something. Because the moment I think about the world, which I used to think very idealistic when I was in college, and when you start working, when you think about the world, you get shit scared. You know, so it's better to just think about yourself, think how much you can do, you want to do, and you know, you kind of slowly move ahead. Because if I think like him, and you know, because he was doing his own project, I'm sure has compromised on a lot of things in terms of luxury, in terms of what concrete and cement could get for what he really wanted, where his heart was. But one, as a consultant of design, you cannot force someone else to do that. You cannot force a client to, you know, to go back with his lifestyle and say so it
Yeah, you need to have your own firm to be sustainable as well.
so this is where I think some of us are. There's a question.
My name is Sagari Chabra. I'm a writer and filmmaker, and I have been, over the last 20 years, recording an archive of surviving freedom fighters, those who worked with Gandhiji. I have always been haunted by a line in Hind Swaraj, and I'd like to quote from Gandhiji. He writes there, "I'm not an enemy of the British, but I am of its civilization," unquote. Now, it's my humble contention that we have completely copied that Western civilization. If you look around the kind of buildings that are taking place today, the kind of high-rise, we've destroyed whatever concept that had been envisaged in Hind Swaraj. And also, if you look, you will see that child rape has gone up 400%. If you look at all these buildings, there's not a single room for children. So mothers have to perforce stay at home to look after their children. And the whole thing is that you get an ayah, which means that she leaves her child open to abuse to look after yours. We do not have a concept of sustainability. We have leached every single resource from the gram for the MNCs, and there's a battle going there. I really think that we need to understand sustainability as that it's for the last child, that last person, that last call. And we have overturned this completely in the kind of civilization that we have adopted. For instance, we have sanctioned 10 nuclear plants. When the entire world is going against nuclear energy, if you have a few planes flying into your nuclear reactor, well, good luck. So I really think that we need to debate this in a very simple way in our schools, in our colleges, because we have those answers. If this tree was not here, if it had not been left, you would not be sitting to be able to speak today. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Very, very well said, and appreciate your point of view, and I'm sure a whole lot of us absolutely agree with it, but you were very vocal and very clear. The message was taken, I'm sure, by everybody. Can we look at it?
I mean, I make clothes, so one of the things which I have learned and what I've read and experienced is that, so pre-British time, we used to have all the indigenous cottons, and there was a whole chain of system where the cottons were rain-feed crops, which are shorter staple cottons. They don't need much of irrigation or cultivation process, and it used to grow with 2 rainfalls, and many areas of the country has a less rainfall. And there was a huge yield of cotton which was happening, and then there was a hand spinning which was happening in nearby villages, and then the weavers used to weave the fabric, and the whole chain system was existing. And that was one of the largest economy of India, how oil is in today's time for many other countries. When Britishers came and they saw the whole idea of how much cotton has been growing, and they saw a huge market and potential to benefit with that. What they did is they replaced the indigenous cotton with the long staple cotton, which can be spun by machine in their countries and then supply the raw materials outside to different part of the world, in America and other parts. Now what happened is that they replaced the cotton where the farmers are now using many of those cotton now to grow. They changed the whole hand spinning industry, and then the weavers started using the mill spun. There is a whole interesting story here, because in this whole process there is a baling system which came in, because Britishers wanted to ship this cotton to a long distance, and where they started compressing this cotton, making it into a bale, and then they ship it, which never used to happen before. Today the Britishers have left, the cotton grows next door, still the baling is there, because the industry was built on the baling. So they get a bale, then they spin the yarn, and then they make the whole fabric. There is no industry without without the baled cotton. So that's how the whole industrial realization has been built up, and that's how the whole country and the world has been working on. We are trying to, me in my small way in a brand which we have built, we're trying to build this channel back again. We're trying to go back and see where indigenous cottons are still been there. And we're trying to see if we can make a fabric, and we're building products out of it and trying to make it reach to the consumer. Of course, there is a cost which is going to be high. And we're also trying to see how we can multiply and we can make it more. The interesting question here, there are 2 things which I would like to say here is that when we buy something made by mill, when we're talking about cost, so khadi, when we say a word, it's a hand spun and hand woven fabric. Today's time, 99-100% of the khadi is made on ambar charka. Very less it is done on the Gandhi charka. Though all the symbols of Gandhi charka, but there is no use of Gandhi charka. It's all ambar charka, which is a multi-spindle charka. And the fabric made from ambar charka spun and hand woven, then there is a mill spun, and then there is a fabric which is made on mill. Now, for example, today's technology, which is an air-jet loom, which makes around 300 meters of a fabric in a day. Then there are old school looms, which were motorized shuttle looms, which used to make, say, 200 meters a day. And then comes a hand weaver, a weaver who makes around 5 to 6 meters a day. Now, the interesting part is that 5 meters and a 300 meters, the cost difference is like almost 50 times, 60 times more. But when we talk about a hand loom to a machine loom, when you go and buy, it is like 30%, 40% more, or even double. It's not 50 times more. So my point is, actually the fabrics or the garments which we're buying, which is mill made, we're paying much more money. It is not cheap, which we think it's cheap, but is actually very expensive. You should be way down the cost. Because of their overheads and the industrial cost which they have, and they they price it such because they want to pay their bills of the structures which they have built and the lifestyle which they have. Whereas the farmers and the whole line chain system which have been there at the grassroots level, the overheads are very low, and that's why they sell at a very cheap price. So this was one thing. The second thing is that today we're talking about organic, and which is very sad, because when we buy an apple or a vegetable, anything has to be an organic. Why we are adding a word organic? Rather, I think on my garments it should be said a pesticide cotton, rather than I'm saying an organic cotton. So if we start just accepting that, that would start answering a lot of things, because that's the reality. And we just saying that it's a, we're now buying an organic cotton. Yeah, these were a few things I wanted to add here.
So, I want to say something, please do.
No, he's right. I mean, as organic farmers, this has become a debate. I'm part of the Food Safety Authority's expert committee on organic food in India as part of the regulatory advisory body. And one of the discussions that we have, which I can share with you, is I say, I'm an organic farmer. I spend hard blood, sweat making organic food, and then I have to certify it at every point in time, call it organic. According to me, the system should be that the chemical farmer should certify that their food is safe or not.
Very well said.
Why
actually.
is it that we keep hitting ourselves on our leg every same time, trying to design systems in saying that we have to justify and prove ourselves at every point in time? It's a very strange kind of modern dilemma that we have in today's time. Picking up from what Himanshu had said and what our friend there had raised as a question, ma'am, I started around the same kind of discussions that you posed in the crowd right now, and rightly so. That's a point to start. But then after a while, as much as I read Gandhi, I understood that up to a point, when we say they, when we say them, they are doing this has happened, these buildings and all, it's fine. But what am I doing about it in my own sphere of control that I have? So I have to embody that change onto myself. I'm very clear that I cannot change this world. The only thing that I can change is myself. As a result of which the world has to change, let it change. Usko bhada mein jana hai to bhada mein jaye is what I will say eventually. I can only change myself. And up until that extent, working with the farmers, trying to address this issue, yeah, because we work not just, I mean, of course I run a farm on my own. I have a group of farmers with me in Himachal Pradesh, in the mountains and all that. But what are we doing about it? So we do a lot of things. For example, in Delhi, right now as part of the Delhi Organic Farmers Market, we are running the rice festival. We're getting close to 100+ varieties of traditional rice into Delhi. And we're not, so the idea is not to sell them. The idea is just to talk about the diversity. It's right there. You go, the Delhi Organic Farmers Market is there. It's running in various places in Delhi. You want Karpu Kavuni rice, which is a magical black rice of Tamil Nadu, you'll get it. Yeah. You want Rajamudi, it was called Rajamudi because the kings used to eat it at some time in Mysore area. But now it's available commonly. Yeah. There is a certain kind of rice which is available if you have hernia as a disease. There's a certain kind of rice which is offered only to the bridegroom when they are getting married. There's a different kind of rice which is offered to the bride when they are getting married. There is a reason why in our worship system during our marriages, akshat, rice is used. Yeah, it's a very interesting conversation around rice.
A rice stalk is considered God, not in just our civilization. They say it with Aztec. Yeah. They say it in Chinese philosophy. They say it in Japanese philosophy. They think actually the concept of God is a stalk of rice. Yeah. So wheat can be a problem with you, but rice never would, to take it from there.
Life-giving, I think.
Yeah, it's a life-giving. Yeah,
so rice, akshat का ना एक, अगर आप अक्षत के बारे में सोचने की कोशिश करिए, you talk about akshat, yeah. Why is it that of all the grains which are offered, it is rice which is most used everywhere in India? Yeah?
Across the globe, I must say.
But would it be true for a state like Punjab as well?
Why not?
Was known for
Why not? So, you know, this green revolution has changed the profile of Punjab. You go and ask any senior farmer. He will tell you the importance of jawar, bajra, kangni bhi. There were various kind of millets which used to grow in Punjab. There were various kind of rices. If you look at heer, yeah, you look at heer, वारिस शाह की हीर आपने देखी होगी, उसके अंदर you know that रांझा को चूरियाँ खिलाई जाती थी You know, he was given churis dipped in ghee. What were the churis made of? What were the churis made of? Can anyone answer that question? What was Punjab at that time? Yeah. So we've lost that element of discovery altogether when we keep talking about. So, of course, after the session, you want to hear the story about Akshat. I can talk about it. It's a very interesting, and it will take you all the way down to non-violence and Gandhi. Believe me, it will change your heart. When we discovered all of this, talking with the farmers, it was like a mind-blowing revelation onto itself. You know, staying in Delhi, ये अक्षत की छोटी सी बात एक किसान से जब की ना हमने, and the information which came out as a result of it just changed your perception about culture altogether, and that is the culture of agriculture. Yeah.
So Ashish, in agriculture, there are a lot of stresses which include declining water tables, chemical leaching, chemical runoff, soil erosion, land degradation, loss in biodiversity, and a lot of other ecological concerns. If I try to tie it back to what we were talking in sustainable living, would you be able to tell us something more about that? What should we be learning from that aspect?
It's simple as that. You know, we are in Delhi. Yeah. Take a look at the history of Delhi around you, and take a look at what this history and what we are in present has done to the villages of Delhi. No matter where all of you are staying in Delhi, आपको उसके आसपास एक गांव जरूर मिलेगा. There will be a small village which has been reduced to servantry and slavery, serving us in the high-rise apartments that we are living in today.
It is unfortunate reality.
It is our unfortunate reality, but it is still not too late. If you create the element of an ideal village in your heart and your mind, akin to what Bapu has also said in the book, you will start creating some element of respect what that village offers to you even today. वहाँ के लोग आके आपके घर पे काम कर रहे हैं, वहाँ पे आसपास कभी खेती होती थी. हमें चुभती है ये बात हम जैसे लोगों को, जब when we have to stay in those high-rise apartments where there were farms at one point in time. It destroyed, decimated the farm completely, and happily bought our houses and staying over there. Now, this is not to be judgmental about the society. That is what we are. Let's accept it. But for what we are right now, can we at least give that little element of respect to the village which exists around us? Maybe we'll start from there, and then we will start building solutions on top of it. Bhati mines. In Delhi, you were saying Delhi mein material nahi milta. You know, Bhati mines, why are there mines over there? Do you know Badarpur ki mitti, which we use in construction? It comes from the banks of the Yamuna, the Badarpur soil over there. So it is how you look at things. It is how you become the change and lead the power to design things at the right price. हम बोलते हैं organic farmers, you're saying, no, the things are expensive, it's for rich people and all of that. We've changed the paradigm, we've understood it to be. It is not that the organic food is expensive. It is that the regular things sold in the market is exploitative and artificially sold cheap. It is that what is killing the farmer. The price of the organic food is the true price of food that we all have to pay as a duty to the farmer. We have to understand these things.
Totally. So when we talk of sustainable living, there is one word which we cannot but talk about. Very, very misunderstood, not clear to most of the people, is called the carbon footprint, which is like the important word. Anybody and everybody who does not even understand what it is likes to throw it away. Can I have you guys talk a little bit about the carbon footprint and the story of the carbon footprint the whole world is talking about right now? I'm sure all of us would like to discuss a bit of that.
In my practice, I can share those part. So as I said the story about the pre-British time and how the things used to happen, so today it is not. So for me to put it back, it is a lot of effort, and also there is a lot of carbon footprint I am in a way burning, because I'm trying to find the individuals who are existing in this country, first trying to create that product and then bring it back. In a way, it is kind of a reverse migration, you call it, or we're trying to bring it back to where, you know, it was originated and how it can happen. So we're trying to practice on that. But fashion is one of the biggest commodity today, which is using the highest amount of carbon footprint for how things have been made. But in our practices, we're trying to use other means of transport, or we're trying to use a way of how we can ship things from one end to the other. I mean, these are these are either the public transports and things which are existing where we are shipping it. So we're not using a sea shipments. We don't do, anyways, we're not doing a huge bulk of things right now. We are still in our thousands and 10,000 pieces which we produce in a year. But I mean, Ashish and Jwalant can add more about how the carbon footprint is there in the things what they produce and what they're creating in every day.
I'm in the fashion business, and I just would like to say something. I've grown up in the crafts, 51 years. That's a long, long journey. And what it's really bothering me these days, because all around me I keep hearing we have to increase our markets, we have to increase our markets, we have to increase our markets. Where is the sustainability in increasing our markets? Where are the natural resources? You say roti, kapra, or makan. Where is the pani for all this? Restaurants are opening all the time. There's so many designers coming up. Craft, natural dyes. How much water is being consumed? Do we have that kind of water? In Ajrakpur, how much water they consume to print those fabrics of the meters of fabric. What are we talking about? Ashish, you tell me. Himanshu, you tell me this. I mean, I know it's a much larger issue for me in my mind. I can't wrap my head around it, so I'm just focusing on these two issues. But pani especially.
1 minute. So, Sunaina, I totally agree with you on what you're saying, and it's a very valid question. You were with us a couple of days back for Khadi Goes Global. So I just might want to tell everybody here, when it comes to water and why is Khadi so propagated today. We are taking it to the United Nations in this March and making a representation there to promote Khadi, and Khadi not just as a generic term, Khadi as the way we talk about hand spun and hand woven, because it takes, Himanshu would be able to tell us maybe better the exact way how Khadi uses lesser water relative to the other things, if that's what we have to talk about.
No, I don't agree there. I mean,
Okay.
First of all, Khadi today, what everybody gets an access to, it's not the Khadi which supposed to be. So Khadi doesn't mean organic. So kindly don't even think of that. Khadi would be the most pesticide cotton fabric made.
Let's say it. We'll work on it. Let's have a healthy discussion. So Naina is just the right person to speak to you about it.
And the dyeing, I mean, I'm talking about the Khadigram Udyogs where I've been working and I've been seeing things and all, and the base of KVIC, how it is built and where it is sourced from, the cotton and everything. So, and the dyes are nothing to do with, forget, azo-free is also not the natural, so it's too far away. So, it is just that it is done using lesser energy, which is using the ambar charka. If it is ambar charka, you might not even find ambar charka.
So, can you explain ambar charka to everybody? There's one Gandhi charka, and then there is...
So Gandhi charka is the image which you guys have seen, which is a single spindle. So every of the yarn passes through your finger, and that's how the yarn is spun. And that's what it is. So like my trouser would be, it is a Gandhi charka. The jacket and all is made on ambar charka. Ambar charka is a hand use. It's like how a sugarcane machine is, which is made by hand, but it draws 4 yarns at a time, 2 yarns at a time, 6, 8, 16, 20, as you go. Ambar charka was also designed at the time of Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's time. Not that it's something new. And it is evolving now, it's becoming solar ambar charka and all, but those are other issues there. But coming to the point of the water and all, I agree. I mean, the Ajrak as a whole tradition, craft, and how it is, where it was done by the river and how it was evolved. It is a question goes back to the designer. Until unless they are curious, they know what is happening, they are sensitive enough to practice things which will use lesser. So either you go to an indigo dye only, so that you don't wash off more. I mean, you just dip and dye and dry it and it's done. But then it will have its own issues. So indigo will have its own dry fastness and it will have its own bleeding issues, which one needs to understand that it is nothing wrong. Just to share very quickly, indigo comes from a leaf. It's a natural form. It has to be naturally fermented. It's a complete 100% natural process. A fermentation happens wherein indigo reduces, and that's how the dyeing is done. But that dye can remain forever. So we have from 25 years, it has been retained, the fermentation process. So there is no reusing of water or anything. It is the same thing which again and again it is used. And it's a natural way of doing it. So if you add a chemical to it, you can fix it. But that's a chemical process of fixing it. So if you don't, then it's a naturally done. And then it will have its own issues. There are, if it's a very nicely done, matured enough, then it might not have a bleeding. But so it's a design input where a designer has to then think how much water to be used and then build it, because otherwise it is, I can't say it is sustainable, and which is right. I am trying to more practice different crafts because there are many traditions which are also dying off. There's so much of knowledge which is also fading away. So we are trying to work with various different techniques, trying to take it to the level where today's lifestyle can have an access to it and wear it. And in the best form possible, identify people who are more master craftsmen, who do refined work, trying to make them into entrepreneur and trying to build an organization based on that. One thing we do is that there is a whole thing going about who made your clothes. There is a thing about, we are conscious today about what we eat. You know, if I'll give you something, you will not just going to put it in your mouth. You will try to understand what it is. And if you trust me, then only you're going to eat it. If you don't know what that thing is. But when we buy a clothes or wear clothes, we never question ourselves where it comes from. We just buy it. So we don't have any background study about it. So how can we become conscious of what we wear? And so we trying to build a whole back-end chain system where when you purchase anything from us, there is a unique serial number, we call it, or an Aadhaar number comes off a garment, which we usually have with our electronics today. That code takes you back to who would be the weaver, and even into certain products, you will know where the cotton comes from. And then all the way from a stitcher, hand stitcher, dyer, everybody involved behind it. In terms of time and date, also it is registered, when it was done and by whom it was done. And that's the kind of a setup and a back-end chain system we're trying to put. And it's existing right now. It's not accessible to the consumer. We're going to make it accessible to the consumer. But these are the practices we're trying to do and celebrate the Indian craft techniques.
अब जो मैं ये पहन रही हूँ, it's so beautiful, but I don't know why not just embroider the name of the weaver and the village?
Well, Kashmiris do it. Every shawl that you purchase, you will see a signature of one of those guys there.
So it was never.
We need to
it's
take
a
it
way,
further.
yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be there, but it is now not there in the education system or that they are writing it. Who made it? So there will be not one person because there will be many people involved. So in this case, if it's an embroidery, just an embroidery person. But there is a weaver, there is an embroidery person, there is a dyer. There are various people involved. So it's not one person who would do it. So it's a complex way of producing. But how somebody has to put a system in to do it, and that's what we are trying to do that.
So this thing about cotton I can give from a farmer's perspective. Madam, 50, 60 years all of us collectively put together, the people, the state, the farmers, everyone, we changed our very DNA of our fabric, yeah, if I may say so. So we've taken it to a level where we think that we cannot change this process. I'm again embodying the change. I'm saying what can we do as be the change? We can say, unhone ye kiya, they did this, they did that, what do we do, where is the land and all of that. India is one of the highest exporters of cotton, so let's not worry about land under cotton. But having spent the last 50, 60 years changing the DNA of the fabric in the way we have, now we cannot start at the top and say, let's start fixing the fabric first. You will have to start with the seed. You will have to start with the farmer. You will have to start with the fundamentals of changing. अब मैं तो किसान नहीं बन सकता है बन सकती, but I am a ग्राहक, मैं consumer तो हूँ. The least I can do is demand change. The least I can do is demand from the markets, no, I want organic cotton. And just that bit of little things that you do, if you're a designer, if you are a consumer, be that change.
Can I say the same thing? Instead of demanding I only want organic cotton, can we demand I do not want what is available?
Please.
Because that is so much there.
Please demand something. Let's just stop saying उन्होंने ये किया, उन्होंने ये किया, मैंने क्या किया. That's it. If I start doing it, then I'll change. And this thing about water that you're saying, considering all the possibility of recycling water, if it was natural dye, then I would have been very happy to get that discharge water from the farmer and channel it into my crops, because that would have been additional nutrition. Now it is replaced with a chemical dye, though I have to think twice. Why? Because for consumers they say ये तो धर्म है हमारा that it should be cheap. अरे बाबा, what cost is that cheap coming to you at? It should be right. No one is saying it should be expensive. It should be right. It should be right for the farmer, right for the consumer, right for everybody. Design such a system. But it's very funny. I sometimes think of all the things that we commoditize in our urban life, land, cars, mobile phones, the sky is the limit for price. But when it comes to food, we're like, सब सस्ता होना चाहिए भैया. Why? Why?
मैं जिस घर में बड़ी हुई थी, मुझे कहा गया था, मेरी दादी बोलती थी कि ज़िंदगी में महंगाई कुछ नहीं होती. महंगाई तब लगती है जब आप कोई चीज़ ले रही हैं. आपको अगर 1 मीटर कपड़ा चाहिए, जब आप 2 मीटर लेते हैं, और जब आपको 10 और डिज़ाइन और रंग अपनी अलमारी में रख के बंद करने हैं, उसको महंगाई कहते हैं. अगर आप आज 10,000 रुपये कमाते हैं या कल 1 लाख रुपए कमाएंगे, तभी भी आपको उतना ही फ़र्क पड़ेगा जितना आप पड़ेगा. सो ये हमसे शुरू होता है. महंगाई कहीं और से नहीं आती.
मुझे एक सवाल पूछना है. आप सब डिज़ाइन से डील करते हैं किसी ना किसी लेवल पे. अब गांधी जी की बात करें तो he was aesthetically he was quite,
he was very there.
Yeah. Now in terms of practicing a skill with the hand and pursuit of excellence in that skill versus more and more people doing it, I have jostled with this thought कि गांधी जी का उसको response क्या होता, because there is a, let's say, a danger of mediocrity setting in that more and more people working with the hand versus the pursuit of excellence by few. What is, let's begin with you, Jwalant. What would be you as a designer response?
First of all, whenever you are judging something, what is your parameter to judge that excellence is very, very important. When some people might say, let's say a lot of my clients, they want to go to China. Luckily, I've never been to China to buy a product. I've been to China to travel. But to buy a product, we have never gone to China. And I have said no to projects when the client says, let's go to China. It's not that Chinese furniture is not good. It is, but it's not required. So let's say, but when they talk about China, they're not talking about cheap. They're talking about, the finish is very good. If you make it by hand, the finish won't be good. So what is your parameter to judge something is good or not, a finish is good or not? Because let's say we are talking about khadi, we are talking about hand spun thing. I might like that hand spun. I might like a little bit of a roughness, which someone might say they don't like it. So first of all, it is the perception, what is good and what is not good, and one is over the other, right?
I absolutely agree with you. Can I say, let's naturally balance and be respectful of humanity's symbiotic relationship with the Earth's natural ecology. That might be the best way of concluding of whatever we've said here in very many words. We are kind of cutting up on time right now. Thank you so much for being a fabulous audience, and thank you very much, Himanshu, Jwalant and Ashish, to be here. You were a great sense of knowledge for everybody. Thanks. Thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Sunaina. Thank you, ma'am. Very interesting audience. And thank you very much.